Big LEZ'S League, an all rugby league experience.
Hello, welcome back to Big LEZ'S League and all rugby league experience. Make sure if you haven't already to subscribe to the YouTube, become a part of the Big LEZ'S League community. We're going to be going through week 2 of the Pacific Championships. Sorry, this one is coming out a little bit late. It should have come out yesterday, but we are getting it out today. Obviously, I've been under the pump with work, trying to organise content for the season review podcast as well. Getting those reels ready. They'll be out soon as well. Also organising these team lists and doing those podcasts. We are just trying to juggle everything at the moment, and it will take a little bit of time. We are playing a bit of catch up with those team lists as well, but that's all getting sorted. There's plenty of great content coming your way, and you've seen that already on the podcast. We've got more interviews lined up after the Running Mature podcast. If you haven't seen that, it's going to come up at the end of this video, but also make sure, if you haven't, maybe go back to that one and watch that one as well after this podcast as well. It is an absolute gun of a podcast, the best podcast that I've ever done. But we're going to be talking about the Pacific Championships today. We're going to be talking about week 2, Fiji, Cook Islands, Kiwis, Kangaroos. Super matchup tomorrow on your Sunday, but let's get straight into it. The first game is Fiji and Cook Islands, 7:10 on your Saturday. Really good battle here. Look, obviously Fiji, not the best performance defensively. The previous week, we did back them to break the drought and get a win. I think that PNG have a 10 or 11-0 record in the past 11 games against Fiji. So we were sort of hoping that they would break the curse there and get a win. I thought that they could with the team that they had, but they were a little bit too off the cuff. A little bit of individuality in the sense that, there wasn't much combining in the spine. It was also just these guys trying to do their own thing, and defensively they weren't the best either, and it hurt them a little bit going up against PNG, who were very well connected, who usually are always very well connected going into these Pacific Championships or these World Cups. But Fiji looking to bounce back this week. I think that the big thing for them is going to be just connections in the spine. Kurt Donahue I thought was great, but he also did have a great individual performance. I'd love to see him try and combine with his halves partner and Kevin Nguama, who, to be fair, isn't usually a half. He's a center and winger, but just combining with him well and just making this halves pairing work is going to be a big thing. And there's a lot of pressure on Kurt Donahue in this side to do that as well, being the only genuine half in that halves pairing. You also have Sunil Taruva out the back you need to incorporate. He did go missing on a few occasions in that Fijian game. I'd love to see him get, used a little bit more, or to come in and get involved a little bit more there at fullback. He has been playing on the wing, throughout the season. But obviously at fullback there definitely needs to get a little bit more involved and take some more opportunities as well, because the ability that he has at fullback, and what we've seen in previous World Cups as well, it can win you games. So I do want to see him get a little bit more involved as well. Sunil Taruva out the back. They've obviously got a really mean back line, and it's a big advantage they have over this Cook Islands side without Kaolito. A few other guys that are eligible for Cook Islands are going to play for Kiwis or for other nations as well. So they do have a huge advantage, Fiji, in the back line. Sivo, Jennings, Wonga Blake, Semi Valame. It's a mean-looking back line. They should have probably used it a little bit better last week. Defensively, the back line I thought was good, but in attack, they were quite awful. So I think that they definitely need to get a little bit more involved, and we can see some great things from this back line if they just turn it on, and I'm really looking forward to seeing if they can turn it on. Mike Acevo as well, just fresh to the Super League, obviously going to join the, I believe, the Leeds Rhinos there with Brad Arthur. Not the best news for Mike Acevo. I mean, it's great that he's getting a contract for next season, but, a guy that Parramatta Eels fans have grown to love, that the NRL has grown to love. Obviously a big dip in form and unfortunately had to go to the Super League, but he's got a massive chance to have that last hurrah, in front of NRL fans here as well, Mike Acevo. I'm looking to see him have a real big game here for Fiji, just coming out of his own end, being a beast, being really strong in attack, and defensively being a rock there as well. In terms of being a rock, the forward pack, Cook Islands have a really nice, well-rounded pack. They've got Tepai Moreau out the front there, who obviously is a veteran of our game. They've got David Mawali there in the front row as well. Mason T coming off the bench, a few familiar faces there. Pride Peterson Rabadi there at 13. I really like. I'm looking for him to have a big game. Ruben Porter on the edge too. Definitely one to keep an eye on. The guy that I'm going to be watching as well is the number 9 for Cook Islands, Rua Natikura. I believe that's how you pronounce it. If that's wrong, please correct me. But he obviously has been in the West Tigers system for quite a while. Obviously there have been a lot of discussions around Simpkins when he was there, about other guys when they were in that side as well. In that, being number 9s for the West Tigers, there was a real issue there as to who that number 9 was going to be before Api Coruscant walked into the building, and a little bit after as well, obviously with who the 14 was going to be. But this guy isn't being talked about too much. I think he's still in their development system, but he has been there for the past 3-4 years. Definitely one to keep an eye on there in the number 9 for Cook Islands. In the same respect, you got another West Tigers number 9 here as well, James Valavatu, who gets his opportunity too with one of the 9s from last week getting injured. But look, I think it's going to be a really nice battle here. A few familiar faces, a few faces that aren't so familiar as well. Some guys from the Super League, some guys from the lower grades coming through. I'm really looking forward to this game. I think that Fiji, I'm going to back them again to win this one. I think there's going to be a real improvement from last week. They're going to be up for the battle through the middle of the park. I'm going to take the Fijian side to get the job done. In terms of try scorers, I am going to go with Semi Valame there for Fiji. And then for the Cook Islands side, give me Esom Ioka there at fullback. I think that, from what we've seen from him in previous World Cups as well, and just some of the highlights that we've seen from him as well in the lower grades and with other clubs that he's been with as well, he's been really impressive. So I think that's going to be one to watch as well, the fullback there for Cook Islands. Obviously, as I said, with Kale Iro out of this team as well, a few other guys have gotten their opportunities. This guy is one of them, so definitely one to keep an eye on there, the fullback for this Cook Islands side. That fullback battle is going to be very nice to watch as well. Moving on to the next game, Kiwis taking on the Kangaroos. This is going to be a really nice battle. The first time we see New Zealand in this World Cup as well. Some really nice retro-looking jerseys as well, which is so nostalgic. But, a few guys that we haven't seen in a little bit, Peter Hiku being one of them, obviously. I'm so keen to see him back. Obviously we haven't seen him since 2 years ago when he played for the Cowboys. Been in the Super League, and I think got into the grand final too, but his team just lost. Definitely one to keep an eye on there, Peter Hiku in the centres. You'd think on the left-hand side with, looks like Jermaine Asako, Timoko might end up on the right. It could be the other way around as well, but we'll have to wait and see. Pidiku did play right side for both Hull KR in the Super League and for the Cowboys, so he could end up on that right side as well. But I love Matsimoko, no matter what side he's on. I think that there's a bit of versatility there, and we don't really know the answer until kickoff, but definitely one to look out for. I think the big call for that everyone's looking at here is Chance Nungo clock start at 6. I didn't expect it for sure. I thought he was going to end up at fullback. You just got to fit Keanu Kinney in this side somewhere, don't you? I think that a lot of fans would have wanted to see Keanu Kinney play in this World Cup after his season with the Titans and what he's been able to do throughout the year. It's great to see him in this side. I didn't think he'd be brought in this early, but they're taking a massive risk on him, and I love it. Chance at 6. We've seen him in a few games at 6 for the Warriors on occasion when there's been injury in the side. He's played well there. I think that he's going to have a very, set in stone running role in this side. I don't think you're going to see him, do much of the ball playing. His ball playing has improved out of sight at the Warriors at fullback, but I think he is going to have more of that running role. Sean Johnson's going to run the sides from both sides of the ruck. And just organising the side, I think that's going to be quite an obvious way that you see this halves pairing operate. Chance is going to be more of a runner, almost like a second fullback, just running both sides of the ruck, creating opportunities. That's the role that Chance is going to be playing. This forward battle is mean. You got Paddy Carrigan and James Fisher-Harris going at it, Griffin Neame and Lindsay Collins, Tarpanay and Yo. I'm quite scared for Collins, just off the back of his last performance, getting pummeled and obviously only getting 34 metres in some big minutes last week against Tonga. I'm really worried about him. I think that if we do get through this game and Collins doesn't have the best performance again, there could be a chance that we see him drop out and maybe a Lindsay Smith come in off the bench and make his Australian debut, which would be huge. But yeah, look, I think that he really needs to stamp his authority in this game, Lindsay Collins. It's been a pretty rough end to the year for him. I just want to see him go to that next level, get back to the tippity top where we know Lindsay Collins can play at his best. I mean, we've seen him at his best in Origin Series, games for the Roosters last year and at some stages at the start of this year as well. Lindsay Collins for me is definitely going to be a watch here for Australia. What Lindsay Collins are we going to get in this game? I'm not too sure. Hopefully one that just knows that he needs to go to that next level if Australia are to win this game through the middle. Paddy Carrigan and Cam Murray were outstanding last week, particularly Cam Murray. Quick play the balls, was heavily involved, absolutely everywhere on the field. I'm looking for him to have a similar impact in this game. Paddy Carrigan through the middle is going to be huge for this Australian side. Himself and Isaiah Yeo just absolutely bashing through the middle. This New Zealand pack, which is a very strong outfit as well there. Tarpanay, James Fisher-Harris, you're going up against some of the better front rowers in the competition. That battle is going to be imperative for Australia to win if they are to win this game. And it's going to be very counted on the bench guys as well. Cotter, I thought, was outstanding last week when he came on for Australia, being that smaller body with a bit of leg speed. Mitch Barnett was solid in defence. Hudson Young only had a few minutes there, but did very well. Matt Burton, only got a few minutes. That's going to be interesting to see where he comes onto the field. I mean, it's pretty obvious Cody Nicorima's coming on to play hooker, but where does our friend in Matt Burton in 14 come onto the field? Does he come on in a roaming role? Does he come on in the halves? Does he come on in the centres? Where does he come into this game? That's going to be really, really interesting. And then the last thing from me, or last two things from me, I mean, we talked about the halves for New Zealand already in Chance and Sean Johnson. Moses and Dearden need to combine better. I feel like they were just two individuals last week. They didn't really combine well. I want to see them combine as a halves pairing and make opportunities together rather than just running their own sides, doing their own thing. I think that's going to be, again, imperative if we do want to see the Kangaroos walk away with the win here against the Kiwis. It's a massive statement game as well. I think they're all going to know that, and that's why this halves pairing and how they run the side is going to be imperative. And then Dylan Edwards, a guy that's usually safe as houses. Obviously had a few errors, handling errors last week, which is so out of character for him. I want to scratch that slate clean. I want him to come out fresh, ready to go, safe as houses. Again, Dylan Edwards, that's when he's at his best. Running the football as well. I want to see him get plenty of touches of the footy, plenty of meters like he did last week. Just really, keep it low in regards to the handling errors. I don't want to see a handling error from Dylan Edwards again. Lomax and Coates coming out of their own ends are going to be really, really important. Coates coming out of his own end last week against Tonga was outstanding. Lomax, I want to see the same sort of impact from him. Tom Trbojevic, Hammer, they were probably Australia's best last week against Tonga. I want to see them go to another level 2 in this game if they are to beat the Kiwis. I'm backing my Australian side. They are the favourites somehow in this contest. I know that there's a few outs for New Zealand, which does help Australia a little bit. But I think that the Kiwis are very, very likely to win this game as well. I mean, you saw what Tonga did to us last week as well. Just through the middle, just some battles as well that they were able to win. Australia, a very scrappy win from them. I think that Australia really need to go to the next level if they want to beat the Kiwis here, because I think that if we do end up having the 19 errors we had last week, then obviously the Kiwis are just going to capitalise on that and get points after points after points, especially with the back line that they've got, the pack that they've got through the middle as well. We did say the same thing about Tonga, but I think New Zealand are just going to go to that another level. If we do keep making errors, I feel like this is the type of team that's going to capitalise on them very much so and very quickly. So I think Australia are going to get it done. I'm probably going to back Australia 1-12. In regards to my try scorers, I'm going to go ahead and take... Who are we going to take here? I am going to go with Tom Trbojevic to score a try here against the Kiwis. I'm going to take Tom Trbojevic. And then I'm also going to take... I'm going to go ahead and take... let's go Keano Kinney in his debut for the Kiwis. Keano Kinney, Tom Trbojevic, Kangaroos to win. That's your Pacific Championships Week 2 preview.